Just over a year ago, our dear country, Nigeria, reached a point where we couldn't afford to continue the use of temporary solutions to solve long-term problems for the sake of now and our unborn generations. I therefore took the painful yet necessary decision to remove fuel subsidy and abolish multiple foreign exchange systems, which had constituted a noose around the economic jugular of our nation.
Continue to give temporary solution to the poorest of the poor, to the poorest of the poor. One day the poor will become poorest, and the poorest will become the poorest of the poorest.
Every single day, minister is going to tell me don't politicize this. It was never politics. But they keep coming for me. They keep coming for my family. They keep coming for your father. They keep coming for Ashwaju, Bola, Ahmed, Tinubu, the greatest president in the history of Nigeria.
I don't read social media anymore. They abuse the hell out of me.
Can Tinubu actually be a savior? Is this a joke or something? What if Tinubu is not the demon he's made out to be? What if he actually has Nigeria's interest at heart and he's just being misunderstood? Hold on. Hold on. Hear me out. One thing is for sure. Nigeria is in dire need of help and the Messiah. And it appears one has come, and his name is Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But before you make any judgments, watch this video to the end. It might just change your perspective.
What are your priorities?
Security and economic recovery to accelerated development.
You see, for decades, Nigeria, Africa's oil giant, couldn't refine enough fuel for its own people. However, it may appear that change may finally be in the air. Let that really sink in. This is a country that pumps out over 1 million barrels of crude oil daily, yet somehow couldn't manage to convert that black gold into usable fuel. Instead, Nigeria exported raw crude and imported refined petrol at an enormous cost, both financially and emotionally. It was like owning a farm, but having to buy food from the market every single day. And with every passing year, the situation has become more frustrating. Queues at the filling stations, fuel scarcity, subsidy dramas, forex issues, inflation, the list was endless. Tinubu may have unintentionally or strategically kickstarted what could become Nigeria's refinery revolution. Let's be real. When Tinubu was campaigning, a lot of people didn't know what to expect. Some thought he'd just continue where the last guy stopped. Others figured it would be business as usual. Same old talk, same old promises. Well, except those who actually believed he'd be a better president. As soon as he was sworn in, the man came in swinging. Whether you love him or you are still on the fence, you can't deny that Tinubu didn't waste time trying to shake up the system. And it all started with one of the boldest, most controversial moves in Nigerian recent history. He yanked off the fuel subsidy. Now, was it painful? Of course. Excruciating, in fact. Prices skyrocketed overnight. I mean, it was like the end of the world. Nigerians felt the heat of this decision in their bones. It begs the question, could the Nigerian refinery revolution we are seeing now have even begun without that move? Probably not. I know. Most Nigerians wanted the subsidy. And when it was removed, it felt like the end. But there's something you might not know. That same fuel subsidy, while it seemed like a blessing on the surface, was actually choking us. It made it near impossible for private investors to step into the refining space because the market was artificially cheap and distorted. Think about it. Who wants to build a $1 billion refinery if the government is going to sell fuel at giveaway prices anyway? Right? Would you invest if you had the means to? Certainly not. So, when Tinubu cut the cord, it sent a message, a loud one at that. He was basically saying, look, if you want to fix this economy, we've got to stop pretending. And that opened the door. Investors, real ones, they started to take Nigeria seriously again. And not just the Dangotes of this world. We're talking small players, foreign partners, and even public sector agencies that had been sleeping on duty for years. Suddenly, they had a reason to wake up because the market was becoming real. Apparently, that was just the first domino. What's really been interesting is how Tinubu's administration has been playing chess with both public and private sector players in the energy space. It's like a behind-the-scenes alliance building game. He's aligning with the big fish in the private sector, while also pushing ministries and agencies to stop dragging their feet and start moving like actual businesses. Have you noticed how the NNPCL is suddenly acting like a company with goals and deadlines? That's not a coincidence. That's a strategy. And it makes you wonder, what if this is all part of a bigger picture? Now, at this point, I bet you're wondering why this is all about Tinubu. And if you have a big bias against him, you may be fuming in rage. But hey, here's another fact you should consider. As far as the refinery revolution in Nigeria is concerned, Tinubu so far is the only president who has tried it and succeeded. This begs the question, who else has tried it? Well, none other than former President Olusegun Obasanjo. So, back when Obasanjo was in charge, he could see that Nigerian refineries were seriously struggling, especially the ones in Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna. They were all over the place, not running as they should, and the country was losing money because of it. Obasanjo knew something had to change, so he decided to bring in some outside help. At first, he reached out to Shell, hoping they'd step in and manage the refineries. But Shell wasn't interested. They basically said they couldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole, mostly because of all the corruption and mismanaging going on.
When I was president, I went and called Shell. I said, Shell, look, come and help us. Run the refinery. Take part. You can take 10%, you can take 20%, but come on. They said no. I said, okay, all right. If you don't want to take equity, come and run it for me. They said no.
But corruption is probably just speculation. Why did Shell reject such a juicy offer? Apparently, Obasanjo wondered the same thing, and so he fished for answers.
I then called their head, one-on-one. I said, look, sit down with me. Why do you turn down? They gave me 5 reasons.
First, Shell believed the refineries in Nigeria were too small. But most importantly, they believe the way refineries have been managed and run in Nigeria so far is the opposite of how it should be managed. So they decided not to get involved at all.
They say our refinery, the way we have managed it, the way we have serviced it, is not the way that refinery should be serviced.
And for those reasons, they were out. So yes, Obasanjo tried. Then, in stepped Aliko Dangote. He didn't shy away from the challenge. Dangote put together a team, and he was even willing to invest a whopping $750 million to run the refineries through a public-private partnership. It seemed like a great move, right? But then, along comes Obasanjo's successor, President Yar'Adua, who wasn't having any of it. He decided to undo everything, returning Dangote's investment, and decided the government will handle it themselves. The idea was that the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, would take over and run things independently. The result? Well, it wasn't pretty. Instead of turning things around, the refineries kept going downhill. The inefficiencies piled up, and the losses stacked up to over $2 billion. And needless to say, the improvements never really came. What if Tinubu's master plan is to get Nigeria refining its own fuel, powering its own industries, and slowly reducing our addiction to foreign imports? And you may be wondering, what makes Tinubu any different? What new method is he trying to make work? Well, we'll get into that. Think about it. No more wasting billions on shipping refined fuel from Europe. No more paying for Forex to buy PMS. What if we are on the verge of an economic reset? Is it too early to celebrate? Maybe. But something is shifting. Definitely. Now, let's be honest. Isn't that what Nigeria has needed all along? A government bold enough to take risks, smart enough to build alliances, and crazy enough to believe that we can actually fix this mess ourselves. Whether Tinubu becomes a messiah or not, one thing is clear. He's not sitting around waiting for miracles. He's shaking the table. And Nigeria, for the first time in a long time, is starting to move. And we are already seeing doings. Let's get into that. You see that thing called Dangote refinery? Yeah, it's not just a refinery. It's a full-blown game changer. No jokes, this is the kind of project that can literally flip Nigeria's oil story on its head. It's the largest single-train refinery in the entire world. Let me say that again for the people in the back. The entire world, the planet. We are talking 650,000 barrels of crude oil per day, all happening right here on Nigerian soil, in the Lekki Free Trade Zone. Wild, right?
50,000 barrels per day that we've done is the largest single train, not only in Africa, in the world. And we just wanted to make a point, and which we have now, achieved.
Now, for a country that spent decades exporting crude oil and importing refined fuel like some confused middleman, this is the kind of project that feels almost too good to be true. But it's real, and you can already feel the ripple effects. First off, the pressure on our foreign exchange. That thing is about to catch a serious break. We spend billions of dollars every year importing petrol, diesel, and jet fuel. Billions, with a B. Now, imagine what happens when we stop importing fuel and start refining locally. The naira gets some breathing room. Fuel becomes more accessible. Prices might actually start to stabilize. No more fuel scarcity panic every 2 months. No more shipping drama. No more vessel delay stories. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Tinubu didn't just watch this from the sidelines. He came in and put his foot on the gas. Permits cleared faster. Policies tailored to encourage production. Infrastructure around the refinery sped up. He understood that this wasn't just about one billionaire's passion project. This was national interest. This was strategic. So yes, credit where credit is due. The synergy between Tinubu's government and Dangote's private ambition is one of the smartest plays we've seen in a long time. But Tinubu didn't stop at the refinery. There are other dead refineries that the president seems to be reviving from their graves, and it's exciting to say the least. Now, these refinery revivals, it's not just one or two, but 3 major ones: Warri, Port Harcourt, and even the long-forgotten Kaduna refinery. Crazy, right? You see, for decades, these refineries were like abandoned relics, monuments to Nigeria's wasted potential. Everyone knew they were there, rusting away, doing absolutely nothing, while we still queued endlessly at petrol stations and sent billions of dollars overseas just to import what we should be making at home. But now, something is shifting, and it's coming from the top. Let's start with Warri. That refinery has been on life support for what feels like forever. You know the kind of place where people just mention in passing like, Warri refinery, that one no dey work jare. Well, it looks like it's finally getting some CPR. The rehabilitation is already underway. And this time, it's not just empty talk. There's an actual agreement with Daewoo Nigeria to renovate these refineries. And the government is putting its mouth and money where its policy is. There are timelines, partnerships, and most importantly, movement. Actual physical work. When was the last time we saw that? Now, Port Harcourt's refinery story is even juicier. This one is already deep into its makeover, with reports of 60 to 70% completion. Let that sink in. 60 to 70%. That's not a sketch on paper or some bureaucratic fantasy. That's a real number backed by real work. And guess who's in the middle of this? The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL. You remember when NNPC used to be that sluggish, shadowy giant that never got anything done? Well, since it transformed into a limited company and started operating with more commercial intent, things are finally starting to look alive. But hey, don't sleep on Kaduna. That one was practically written off. I mean, when people talked about Kaduna refinery, it was usually in the past tense. Used to. Once upon a time. Before it died. But now, under Tinubu's administration, the conversation around revival have turned into actual plans. Groundwork is starting. The gears are slowly creaking back into motion. And if Kaduna of all places can be brought back to life, then maybe, just maybe, the era of moribund refineries is finally behind us. Now, if you have to ask, what's changed? Why now? Why suddenly are all these dead refineries getting a second chance? The answer points right back to Tinubu's strategy. The man seems determined to reduce Nigeria's shameful dependence on imported fuel. And unlike the plenty talk we have heard for years, he's backing it up with action. Through the Ministry of Petroleum Resources and NNPCL, his administration is breathing life into these projects with actual timelines, foreign partnerships, and a level of seriousness we haven't seen in years. Think about the ripple effects. What happens when Warri starts producing again? When Port Harcourt starts refining at scale? When Kaduna comes back online? We're not just talking fuel. This means jobs, infrastructure, transportation, industrial expansion, and even real estate booms in those regions. Can you imagine what that does to the economy? What it does for investor confidence? What it does for the average Nigerian who's tired of hearing promises with no delivery? But let's stop being so generalistic. A massive move like this would definitely have far-reaching effects, especially for real estate. If you're even remotely interested in real estate, this is the part where you increase the volume of this video and lean closer. Here's what's happening with Nigeria's refinery revival. And it's not just about oil. It's not just about fuel. It's about land, homes, people, and the kind of economic ripple effect that transforms entire cities. Have you seen what's happening in Ibeju-Lekki lately? It's wild. Land that nobody cared about 10 years ago is now being sold like it's beachfront property in Banana Island. Why? 2 words: industrial boom. Think about it. When you build a mega refinery like Dangote's in Lekki, you're not just installing some giant pipes and tanks in the middle of nowhere. You're creating a magnet for manufacturing companies, logistics firms, housing developers, restaurants, schools. Everybody wants in. These refinery zones, Lekki, Warri, Port Harcourt, they're turning into new industrial cities. And when jobs come, people follow. And when people come, they need places to stay. And when demand shoots up, what happens to land prices? You already know. So, let's play this out for a second. You've got engineers moving in, technicians, admin staff, foreign consultants, local workers. That's thousands of people needing homes, schools for their kids, grocery stores, hospitals, internet providers, the whole ecosystem. And that's where real estate starts to boom. Developers are racing to build estates, hostels, hotels, even short-let apartments. And the prices, they are climbing like a ladder in a fire drill. It's like a gold rush, except the gold is square meters. And this isn't just a Lekki story anymore. The same thing is creeping into parts of Delta and Rivers State, where the Warri and Port Harcourt refineries are being revived. People who used to ignore these regions are now making trips to inspect land. Smart investors are locking down plots like their life depends on it. Why is that? Because everyone is thinking long term now, obviously. They see what happens when a region gets industrialized. The roads get bigger, power becomes more stable, ports get upgraded, and suddenly, what used to be a sleepy town starts to feel like a mini city. Have you ever heard someone say, "I should have bought land back there when it was cheap"? This is that moment. We are literally in it. The spillover effect of Tinubu's refinery agenda is already reshaping Nigeria's real estate map. It's pushing urbanization into new territories and making developers look beyond Lagos and Abuja for the next big opportunity. And if this refinery momentum holds, if the government keeps backing both public and private sector growth like this, we might be witnessing the birth of Nigeria's next generation of industrial cities. And they are being built right before our eyes, on land that's quietly becoming more valuable by the day. This begs the question, who's paying attention? I truly hope you count yourself as one of them. Please contact us if you're curious and would like to make a move on this big boom about to happen. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment and let us know your thoughts. Do you think President Tinubu is actually intentionally causing an industrial revolution? Or is it just one big coincidence?